Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Card Advantage podcast. I am Jeff. That is Bunk. What's going on, Bunk?
What's up, man? You're fresh back from the National?
Fresh back from the National. This is episode 19, by the way. Yes, we are going to be talking all things national, like everybody and their mother that's doing sports card content right now. That was there. Be giving you a rundown of a few things that I saw from National. But today's going to be a bit of a special episode. Two reasons for that. Number one, we're going to be doing a little buying during today's episode. I got a couple cards on the watch list, one of which we're actually going to be talking about during today's investment section. So we have a couple things that we're watching, so we'll potentially take a little bit of a live break here. Bunk's got the alerts up. Use sportscardalarm.com for those. Just a quick plug for us. And yeah, we're gonna try to buy a few cards during today's episode. Just stuff that we got an eye on. A couple things that we've mentioned in past investments that have come up. One of which being a Jamal Murray PSA 9 silver rookie. And then a couple things that we'll be talking about a little bit later. So we'll take a break for that. Just keep me posted, Bunk, when we're at like 30 seconds on some of this stuff.
3 minutes and 20 seconds, sir.
3 minutes and 20 seconds. Fantastic. So we're going to start with National. I was out in Chicago for the National. I bought the early admission ticket. So I was there Wednesday evening, Thursday, and Friday. This was my first card show ever, my first National ever. And let me tell you, for those of you that are watching, you can see a picture from National in my background. Lines out the door, literally people jammed in aisles. There were thousands and thousands of people on the floor at any given time. Some of the initial numbers I'm seeing is this show was 65% higher in attendance than previous years. So it was nuts, like absolutely nuts. It is sports card overload. One of the things we talked about last week was going in there with a plan, and I really didn't honestly take our own words to like advice. Like I had stuff that Bunk wanted, and I had stuff that a couple other guys had in mind, but I didn't really have anything myself, and I was overwhelmed. Like I didn't know what to do, because you literally walk by table after table after table. There's 1,500 tables there, and 75 to 80% of it is all modern sports cards, and graded, ungraded, high-end, low-end dollar boxes, $5 boxes, $20 cases, and you're just like, shit, what do I do? Like, what's my game plan here? And I just, you're like, all right, I want deals. And that was like my first thing. So you're just looking in cases, and it's like, unless you want to look up every single card, you're going to be there all day. So then I'm like, all right, let me start trying to find stuff that I can, that's rare, that's in my price range of like 100 to 300 bucks. So the first thing I got was a 2017 Fernando Tatis purple shimmer, and I unfortunately can't show it because of the background stuff, but Bowman Chrome purple shimmer. The guy had it listed at 225. I looked it up. Last sale was 450 to 500, and so I think that he had it mispriced. I still tried to talk him down. Wound up getting it for $200. So that was
cut you short, guy. Go win yourself a Jamal Murray.
All right, hold on. Let's bring up Jamal Murray. 29 seconds to go. Last sale on this, we're looking at the 2016-2017 Prism Jamal Murray Silver PSA 9. Last sale on this was, I think, 170. We're going to hit a bid of 209.69. Yeah, I'm a child. I end all my bids with 69 cents. And hopefully we will sneak it out. 202.50. For the Jamal Murray Silver Prism PSA 9,
You won?
we won.
Nice.
Last sale was 170. The pop on this is 104. If you've been listening to us, we have been talking a little Jamal Murray. He got hurt. He didn't play in the playoffs. He's coming back next year. Nuggets should be, challenging for championship again. So this, should pick up some value in the offseason, especially going into next year, when he comes back healthy. We're hoping this is a great buy.
What's the peak on this one?
Let me look. This thing, it peaked at 640 back in September.
Right. So you got it for a third of that in the off season. That's how you do it.
Yeah. I mean, normally I wanted to wait a little bit more until basketball got into summertime. And it just kind of faded a little bit more because obviously you got the Olympics still going on and everything, but the pop on this is 104. PSA 10 out of my price range. PSA 10s are going for $850. I'm not really looking to spend that kind of money. So, and even the PSA 10s are 161 on the pop, and these things don't come up very often. So wanted to grab it, and we snagged it. How much time we got on the next one?
You got 3.5. 3.5 on your next one, sir.
All right, fantastic. And I apologize that we're bouncing all over the place here. But got a couple things that are ending that are good opportunities for us. So we want to make sure that we grab them when we can. National. So I finally settled in, got into a groove, decided. The two things that I'm going to look for is, trying to see some more rare, lower pop graded cards that I could get for deals, and then anything raw, popular players that I'm able to actually look at in front of my face, take pictures of, analyze, centering, condition, corners, all that stuff that you really don't ever get the opportunity for on eBay. So I think I wound up doing pretty well. I'll just read down a list of stuff that I got. 2018 Panini Revolution Luka PSA 10. I got for $280. Selling normally $350 to $400. I got a Burrow 2020 Donruss Optic Joe Burrow Hollow PSA 9. These are normally selling for $250. I got it for $180. Panini Select Deshaun Watson PSA 10. These are usually selling for like $125 to $150. I got it for $100. 2018 Prism Josh Allen PSA 9. These are selling for $220 to $230. I got it for $180. And then the raw cards, I got two Joe Burrows. One is the red, white, and blue Prism. One was the green laser. I got both of those for the red, white, and blue. I got for, I think it was $100, a little bit less. And then the green laser was like $150. I got a 2018 Trae Young raw, 1996 Topps Kobe raw, and a Derrick Henry silver rookie raw. And I think that's it. Everything that I got for less than comp.
And the main takeaway for me there is you bought one baseball card because it's in season most likely, and you got deals on everything not in season.
I mean, football I know pretty well, and baseball, like some of the young guys, I'm just not as knowledgeable as you, unfortunately. And since the wife didn't sign your permission slip for you to come to Chicago, we'll have to wait.
Atlantic City, 2022.
Yeah, we'll have to wait until you're in.
All right, guy, hit the other auction.
In driving range. All right, here we go. All right, so the other thing that we're looking at. Fuck, we don't have a lot of time. The other thing that we're looking at is.
Just win it. We'll talk after.
Yeah, all right.
So what he's bidding on is a 2018 Donruss rated rookie PSA 10 lot of Weston McKinney. There's 7 of them in there. Individually, I think they sell for about $95 to $100 each. Oh, you got that cheaper, guy. If you bid what I thought you were gonna bid.
Nope. I was originally gonna go a little bit over 500, and I was like,
Yeah, that's what I thought, guy.
I don't know. I bitched out, unfortunately. I mean, I spent some money at National, and wasn't 100% confident as far as us making our money back on the 5 and keeping the 2, as we talked about beforehand. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, yeah, I missed out on that, but who knows how much they would have bid up. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about Weston McKinney in the investment section of today's podcast. But there's one more lot that's ending in a couple minutes. As far as the experience of buying cards at National, I found one of 2 experiences. Guys that had their cards priced at comps and were willing to negotiate so you could get things for less than comps. Usually those guys were either guys that are really in tune with what's going on, or guys that are older and a little bit more disorganized, let's just say. There was one guy there that was like, oh, what's the comp? Oh, okay. And he just took your word for it. And then if you made him an offer that was like a little bit less than that, he was like, sure, no problem. And then he just took your money, and that was fine. And then you had guys that were 2 to 3 times comps. And those guys, it's like you try to offer something below comps and they're just like, no. So it's like, okay, it's just a waste of time, and you just kept it moving. But
that was my favorite sign I saw, was the guy that posted, I don't know if it was fake or not, but it was a sign that said, I don't care about your rebate comps or your taxes.
yeah, I mean, there were guys that you walked up and that the comp was $200 and they had it priced for like $499. And those guys, it's like,
yeah, fine. Yeah, go to the next table.
Yeah, you knew you weren't going to get a deal. The one thing that I was surprised about, there was a shit ton of jerseys, memorabilia, posters, autograph stuff. Fanatics had a huge presence there of game-used autographed jerseys and a bunch of other things. There were a lot less people like with...
the last lot's ending.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm sure TriStar was there.
Yeah, so this is a lot of optic PSA 9 McKinneys. And I think these are going for like $70 a piece. So we'll do... see if we can get these for less.
What are you going? 135?
156.69 is the bid.
Oh, you got it then.
And we are going to win at 151.26. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the last few of these sold between 65 and 70. So we got 3 of them for 151. So we'll sell 2, keep 1, and
yeah, you got one for $10.
Yeah, hopefully we get one for pretty much free.
That's how you do it.
All right, we're done buying for tonight. We'll keep the episode moving here. So yeah, there was a ton of memorabilia there. I would say 30% of the floor was memorabilia, posters, pictures, old-timey stuff, pennants. There was a whole guy with pennants, like literally his booth was in the middle of the floor. He had a massive size booth, and it was all like old school original pennants. And there was a couple that I wanted, but I didn't want to carry him around. And I'm like, hey, do you have a website? He's like, yeah, I don't have a website. I wanted to order them online and just have them sent. And he's like, yeah, I don't have a website. And his email was like Earthlink. So it was definitely... There's definitely...
He had to sell. I mean, what kind of prices on the pennants? You got to sell a lot of pennants to cover the $1,300 table.
I mean, the 2 pennants that I was looking at, I'm an Indiana University grad, so there was one from the Rose Bowl, 1967, that he was selling for like $75, and then there was one just a regular like old school Indiana pennant that was like $60. So they weren't cheap. They weren't like $5 pennants, but the stuff that he had was like original shit from back in the day. So it was like really old school Chicago Cubs pennants and Brooklyn Dodgers pennants from like the original time. So it was really nice stuff, and it was in really good condition, but I just didn't feel like carrying him around all day. And he didn't have a website, so unfortunately, sorry, pennant guy. get a website, and we'll be able to help you out. The other thing that I took away from this was don't be ashamed about buying things with lower grades. There's a lot of guys that were carrying around their tackle boxes worth of cards, and no shame in the game that I can afford a PSA 6, a PSA 7, even if it's stuff that's more modern cards, and the cards are $80 or whatever. It's like a popular card. People have zero shame that they have 6s, 7s, 8s, whatever. I think a lot of times, when you're buying stuff, there's a stigma of like, unless it's a 10, it's crap, and people don't care. Like they were proud to show off their cards that were less than 10s, and I think that's definitely something to take away. If it's a card you want and you can only afford a 6, buy the 6, and rep it proudly. The trade nights were absolute bananas. I stayed at the Lowe's Hotel, and I had a buddy in town Friday night, and we went out to dinner Friday night and came back from dinner, and you could not move in the lobby of my hotel. Literally could not move. And trying to walk through to get to the elevator, and there's literally just there was probably 1,000 people, 1,200 people in the lobby of my hotel, and people literally just have their cards on the floor, on tables, guys walking around. You think you're at like outside a baseball game. It's like, I'm buying basketball, I'm selling football, like just literally like scalpers, like just walking around trying to buy and sell. And then you feel ashamed because you have a 15-year-old fucking kid sitting on the floor with an Aaron Rodgers PSA 10 rookie card, like just showing it off like it's nothing. And it's like, how the fuck did this kid get this card? And but you had that element, like people that are like, oh, the youth are being left out. Let me tell you something, the youth represented at this show in full force. I watched a kid berate Phil Hughes, former professional baseball player and head of Phil's Pulls, berate him about his comps, because there was like one comp that was like $70 or $80 over, and his kid, probably 8 to 10 years old, was like, this Joe Burrow card should be priced at $125 and you have it priced at $200, and that's ridiculous, and yada yada. And Phil was just like, dude, we priced this stuff a couple days ago, like it could be out of date. And the kid just kept going. And
good for him.
I was like, wow. And
see, the kid did his homework.
Yeah, the kid definitely
he listened to last week, and he showed up and knew his comps.
Yep, he did know his comps. And then you're watching kids, like 15-year-old kids, carrying around hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in cash, and they're negotiating with dealers. And I'm looking around, I'm like, where's this kid's father, mother, anybody? I watched this kid negotiate a $700 card, and I'm just like, and then he just whips out $100 bills and gives it to the guy. The kid, 13 years old, probably. It was crazy.
Well, you can't get retail for kids, so go big.
I guess so. I mean, you can't. I mean, whatever it is, but for people who have expressed the concern for kids in the hobby, like there was a shit ton of kids there. Like some were with their parents, some got there somehow, some way on their own. So it was nuts. Like I couldn't believe the amount of kids that were just walking around.
That's awesome. I mean, it's good to hear, though.
Yeah, there is no shortage of younger people in this hobby that are buying, selling, and trading. Couple shout outs, people that I got to meet in person. Met the guys from Sports Card Nonsense podcast, Mike and Jesse. Chatted with Mike for probably 5 or 10 minutes at their booth that they were at. Super nice guys. Just good dudes. Tossed me a free T-shirt. So shout out to those guys. Talked to one of the guys from Card Talk Pod. He's actually a guy who does, he produces the show. We actually went to, played Little League together. My dad was, our little league coach when we were like 10 years old. So I hadn't seen him in probably 20 years, and familiar face, and we reconnected. So that was cool. Shout out to Jay Coppell from Card Talk Pod. And then met, a couple other breakers, guys that I've broken with, and whatever. People just really cool. Nobody was really acting like a dick or anything else. So it was just nice to see that.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm super jealous. Can't wait to hit AC next year.
So I said, get the wife to sign the permission slip and get the days off of work, because it would have been nice to have you there and be able to walk around and get some other stuff.
Next year, guy. Next year, I'm in.
Yep. All right. So now we're gonna switch it over to you. Give you a little chance to chatter a bit. So let's talk. We're gonna talk 2012 Mike Trout, second year Mike Trout's, following up on an episode we did a couple weeks ago, talking about second year cards, and we have some of those opportunities for you right now. So what are we talking about?
It was funny. It was about a week or two ago. I saw somebody tweet, "Where the hell is Mike Trout?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good point. Where the hell is Mike Trout?" So I mean, I saw some things about him jogging and taking batting practice. So I thought he was getting close, but nonetheless, he hasn't played in a couple of months. I was like, let me take a peek at some of his second year stuff, and I found a couple nice PSA 9s. His Topps Update and his Topps Heritage 2012 are both practically at their all-time lows, or within the last 12-month lows.
Yeah, which one do you want to start with?
So let's go with throw up the Heritage. The
All
Heritage
right.
has a population of 1337, and it's about 180 right now.
Yes, last sale, 176 on that.
And what do you got as a high on that one?
Recent high 360 in March, and then another high of 330 back in May of last year.
Right, and then if you look in October, November of 2020, what was that card at?
160. Yeah, so we have a couple times it dipped down to 150, 160, 140, between 140 and 160 as its recent lows for the last couple of years.
Yeah, so you're looking at about half of what it might have peaked at. So I think that right now that's a great buy. Whether he comes back and is playing this year, that's a card I'm looking maybe to pick up a few heading into next March, April, turn around then. And then the other one is the Topps Update PSA 9, which is all uber affordable at $45 right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can look at the PSA 10 too, because even the PSA 10 is affordable. But let's start with 9 and then we'll go to 10.
Yeah, the nines are the last couple have been 45 at auction.
Yeah.
Only a 650 pop. And it's way off its previous high.
Yep, 44 last sale, pop 646. And yeah, I mean, similar type of chart pattern. We're sitting at basically what I'm calling support or floor from the last few years. Upward potential, it hit all the way up to 180 back in April, and then a previous high of 167. So you're looking at 3-4x on the 9. And then,
right, you're not flipping that next month.
No.
But that's something for $45. I'd buy 10 of them and wait till March, April, May.
Yeah, I mean, this is also something you can buy a few bulk, buy 4 or 5, whatever, sell 3 or 4 of them, make your money back, and then put one in the drawer. Obviously Mike Trout is first ballot Hall of Famer, and something that could be have some value, especially with these low pops. Right now PSA pops on lower level cards aren't going to grow for the foreseeable future.
Nobody... Right, and he's the perfect example many years off his rookie year now that the second years are going to have good value.
Yeah. And we can look at for those of you that want to spend a little bit more money, the PSA 10s are, I mean, going for, you should be able to get this for 160 to 200. There's one sale that closed at 224.99, which I believe was probably, yeah, it was a fixed price. Then we have some best offers. Your last auctions closed for 160 and 190. So hopefully you can get something for around those prices and, hold on to them for a little bit.
Yeah, and if you want to go a little bigger on that update card, there's only 86 BGS 9.5s, and the last two at auction have averaged $200.
Yes, we have. Let me see here. Let me pull up BGS. So it's interesting to look at the chart dynamics and the differences because the BGS, there's a lot less of them. So over the last few months, those have been climbing in prices while the PSAs have been going down. So it's definitely interesting to look at it as far as value and what people are looking for price to spend on a card.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're looking at a pop in the hundreds on the one, and then, like I said, there's 9 BGS 9s, there's 49, there's 86 9.5s, and there's only 11 10s.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it actually brings me great joy to see that the BGS is commanding some value right now over the PSA.
Yeah, I mean,
just makes sense to me.
BGS baseball is at least for a while going to hold its value. Football and basketball, I think even when they come back, they're going to have a hard time competing. Obviously with PSA and even HGA right now, but BGS.
I just think the bulk of submissions won't be those two sports to BGS.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah, people that are involved with BGS are guys like you, guys that are in their 40s and 50s or older that like BGS and like the strictness of their grading. And a lot of those guys, for the most part, are baseball guys. And you guys are the older generation of card guys, and you're into baseball and you're into Beckett, and that's gonna still maintain. But we'll see what happens when they come back. And I still think I think from what they said, there's still another 4 or 5 months to go until they're coming back.
And now, is that all just cleaning backlog?
Yeah, that's all just cleaning backlog.
Christ.
I mean, they did the same thing that PSA did. They said hey, we're going to shut down for 6 to 8 months and try to clear our backlog and get everything out to people. And I don't think they're taking anything really for submissions. All right. Anything else on Mike Trout?
No. And even if you don't like the prices where they are, he doesn't look like he's coming back next week. So this is definitely two that I keep an eye on because they may dip even more.
Yeah,
especially if we get bad news or a setback in his recovery, and we're not going to see him till months from now. Those cards could drop even lower.
And since I'm not up on MLB standings, Angels are not in contention, right?
They never are.
Yeah, so more than likely they're not rushing them back to hang out in the middle to bottom of the pack. So,
has anyone actually seen Mike Trout's one career playoff hit live?
Send us an email at info@sportscardadvantage.com if you have. And that reminds me, I don't know. I'll edit it in afterwards. I forgot to do our email and question submission and all the other stuff at the beginning. But
such an amateur.
Yeah, I know. All right, so let's move on. We're gonna talk about Weston McKinney. There's not a ton in card ladder for Weston McKinney, but we're gonna bring it up anyway. We're just gonna talk about him more in general. For those of you that don't know, that haven't been paying attention, U.S. soccer been making a little bit of noise. Won the Gold Cup and won CONCACAF this year. Go ahead.
Yeah, the men's soccer.
Yes, we're talking men's soccer. We're not talking women's soccer. Unfortunately, they lost and are out of contention for gold. But we're talking men's. We have World Cup coming up next year, which hopefully the U.S. will qualify for. The main name that people talk about when they talk men's national team is Pulisic. We've talked a little Pulisic on this podcast before. IPC Pulisic. I have a couple of cards that I really love from him. Got at some really great prices, but we're hoping that we can introduce another name to you guys for the men's team. Weston McKinney. He plays for Juventus. I think that's how you pronounce it. At least I hope it is. He, plays, obviously it's big time European soccer. He's a talent. He's already got a really nice goal that he scored in the preseason this year. Ronaldo's on that team. He's gonna get some shine. And then with the U.S. going into the World Cup next year, it's going to be very pro-America. You can get these raw cards. Right now we're looking at the 2018 Donruss and 2018 Donruss Optic. We just bought 3 of those Donruss Optic PSA 9s. And the PSA 10 on these cards are about $100 for the non-optic and about $175 to $200 on the optic PSA 10s. The population reports less than 175 on optic and less than 75. Actually, I'm sorry. Hold on. Less than 175 on the regular Donruss and less than 75 on the optic. And then if you really want to spend a little bit of money on McKinney, you can get an auto, like this card, same card as the auto, for less than $300. So very affordable.
His optic has the auto.
What's up?
His optic has the auto.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last sale on that was like $275 raw. So there's a ton of options out there for getting his rookie cards. We like to collect U.S. men's national team with the USA jersey. So on the Pulisic stuff that I have, he's in his USA jersey. So the Kaboom and some of the other cards, he's in the USA jersey, and these cards are also USA jersey. So, with that being said, I think you probably have a little bit of time before, people start getting hyped up for World Cup, but, you shouldn't, if he starts really playing well and lighting it up for Juventus, his cards could go up. So you may want to, if you're looking to grab it and soccer's your thing, definitely a good guy to snag now.
I mean, yeah, listen, it's the biggest international sport,
Yeah, absolutely, and we're very pro America on this podcast. So we try to grab some guys from the U.S. team and support that, and we'll definitely be supporting the team for next year at the World Cup.
And on to American football.
Yes, we have one more American football. And that's actually something that I picked up at the show. 2018 Prism Josh Allen PSA 9. I got mine at the show for $180. Some of the auctions right now are going for $225 to $230. If you can pick one up for $200, that would be where I'd want to target, even $225 if you have to. There's a lot of chatter around him potentially being an MVP candidate this year. They brought in Emmanuel Sanders. They still have Diggs. Got a couple guys in the backfield that can catch the ball. He's every season he's progressed bigger and bigger stats. Bill's legit shot to make it to the AFC Championship game. More than likely going to play the Chiefs, and see if they have a chance. Solid defense. They could go to Super Bowl, and Allen could be in the running for MVP. And obviously, if that happens, his cards are going to skyrocket.
And he's been getting better every year. So you got to like the consistency there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as a side note, for those guys that are listening that have bigger budgets, you want to go after the PSA 10s on some of this stuff. By all means, go right ahead. Stuff that we recommend, we try to keep it in the affordable range. And most guys aren't slinging $1,000 on a Josh Allen card on spec. So, his PSA 10 is going for 940 right now. But if you got the cash and you want to throw it around, it's a low pop, 1,087. PSA 9 pop is 1,500. So both are low pops. Both, are presenting good opportunities right now.
Week 1 is quickly approaching, sir.
Hell yeah. I looked it up today. 2021 Mosaic drops September 11th. First big product of the year for football, for cards. So definitely expect some content around that from us in about a month.
Nice.
Yep. All right. Moving right along. We're going to go into this week's Slab Wars. Some research Bunk and I have been doing on, how things are pricing out PSA, SGC, HGA, BGS, and how it all compares. Try to keep you guys informed on that. We had some discussions before when we were doing some of our research. Why don't you walk us through a little bit as far as some of the stuff that we're thinking in regards to, which grading companies we like for which sports, and then I'll walk through some of the specifics that we have for this week's cards.
Well, you said it earlier. I think, for me, definitely personally, I prefer BGS for baseball. I think of SGC. When I think of SGC, I think of vintage baseball. So seeing some of these football and basketball cards in an SGC slab is just weird to me. PSA, I think, is everything.
Yeah.
Everyone's and the PSA is all encompassing because everyone thinks they're going to get their 10, so they send everything there. So that's fine. And HGA, you just
can't help yourself.
I can't help myself.
For those of you that are new, Bunk hates PSA because he thinks they give out way too many 10s. So
Jesus. I know they've been in existence for 6 months, but how many HGA 10s did you find today on eBay?
Yeah, I'll agree.
There aren't any.
You search eBay for HGA 10s, I only saw one. So, they're definitely not handing them out, and BGS 10s, everybody knows, are harder to get. I definitely, if we're gonna pick sides as far as, which grading companies are like which, SGC definitely is a lot like PSA, except they have the half grades. And then HGA, very similar to BGS as far as the strictness in which they're grading.
Yeah, and to be fair, small sample size in HGA, but the trends appear to be that they are definitely tougher on their grades.
Yeah,
and I was literally about to say before I couldn't help myself with the PSA comment was you can actually make the argument we shouldn't even put HGA in this conversation because they haven't been around long enough compared to the other three. But
yeah,
they're hot, so they're in there.
But at the same time, we'll when we look at some of the numbers, we'll see HGA 9.5 are comparable or better to SGC 10s. So it's definitely something to look at. But it's going to get interesting to see how this splits. But sorry to interrupt. Continue on. What sports do we like for what grading companies?
Well, I think the majority. I think what we're going to see, and I think I was alluding to it earlier. I think you're going to see a trend towards football and basketball to everywhere except BGS. I think you're going to see that a lot.
Yeah.
HGA. Everything looks cool. You get a cool a custom, or not even a custom, but one of their labels. It looks cool on any sport, depending on the card. I really don't think HGA is in any particular direction right now. They're trying to figure out themselves as it is.
Yeah. There was a point that at the show, Sports Card Nonsense guys were on the main stage, and they had Peter, who's the owner or one of the owners of SGC, up. And one of the kids in the crowd asked, "What do you think of HGA?" to the guy from SGC. So he gave the diplomatic answer of, they're grading company and they're doing their thing, yada yada. Just basically just completely diplomatic. But then Mike from Sports Card Nonsense hopped in and he's like, "Listen, it breaks down to the older generation knows SGC and Beckett, and those guys are submitting to those grading companies, and that's why SGC is competitive for baseball and BGS is competitive for baseball. The younger generation likes the flashy slabs, likes the colors, and those guys flock more to basketball and football,
Football, right?
And that's why you're seeing stronger prices from HGA and PSA on basketball and football, because PSA is the gold standard, and HGA, the younger generation likes those slabs better than SGC, and some of the younger generation probably never heard of Beckett.
Well, yeah, and to your point, the younger generation also seems to gravitate more towards basketball and football from a watching standpoint
Yep.
than baseball.
Because it's
So that's why I
boring.
think you're seeing it. Because HGA prices for baseball, they were strong initially, but they're not as good as I thought they'd be currently.
Yeah, because baseball is boring.
Oh boy.
Well, I challenge anybody to sit down and watch 9 innings on television.
Every day.
Oh, it's fucking horrendous. I'll be asleep by the second inning. Anyway, all right, so let's look at some numbers. So we talked about Josh Allen in the investment section, so we're going to keep that train rolling. I'm definitely on the Josh Allen train this year. So we'll look at the PSA 10s instead of the 9s, which we talked about in the investment section. This is for auctions. So to explain to everybody that's new, Slab Wars, we look at these 4 grading companies side by side. We try to find dates that are similar and grades that are the same, so that we give you an idea of how things are stacking up. So this is July 24th. PSA 10 sold for $915, and SGC 10 sold for $425, which is less than half, which is kind of scary. HGA 9.5, because the HGA 10 did not exist, sold for $462. So definitely one thing to note: HGA 9.5 sold for more than an SGC 10. And then we also had a BGS 9.5 from July 13th, best I could do, sold for $450. So it definitely seems in this particular case, BGS 9.5, HGA 9.5 outsold SGC 10 for football. And then the other card that I wanted to talk about was 2018 Juan Soto Topps Chrome Update. Juan Soto, last man standing of the big 3, with Tatis and Acuna being hurt. So I figured we'd take a look at his cards. PSA 10, this is August 2nd, was the auction date. PSA 10 sold for $248. SGC 10 sold for $208. BGS 9.5 sold for $230. HGA could not find one in a 9.5. The only thing that was available were 9s. There are no 10s and no 9.5s that sold anywhere in like a 2-week time period. So once again, BGS 9.5 outperforming SGC 10, but definitely seeing, as far as the percentages of the prices, SGC 10 a lot closer to PSA 10 on baseball than football.
How many? I know we talked about it last week. Do you think people who are not as familiar, younger people not as familiar with the history of SGC, are looking at SGCs and trying to grab them cheaper to cross over sub?
It's possible, but where are you going to cross it over to?
Well, this is a poor example because there's not enough meat on the bone here to crack it and submit. But
I mean, yeah, I mean,
and you also got to figure, right, with BGS is closed, and the PSA is what, $200 is the cheapest right now. No one's cracking anything right now. So I mean, unless you're stockpiling SGCs for 6 months from now.
Well, either that, or if it's a few $1,000 card, at SGC 10, and it's the example that we talked about previously, SGC 10 Devin Booker Silver sold for $1,600 versus $6,500 on PSA 10. Something like that is worth the $200 risk. But on this lower end stuff that we're talking about, definitely not worth the $200 risk.
Yeah, and at this price point too, I mean, people are just buying the card, right? I mean, you're probably just buying the card, you're putting it up on your shelf. I don't know how many people are. I don't know. I don't like SGCs. You don't see a lot of them. I bought vintage SGCs. Like I still can't get over ultra modern in SGC.
You don't like the tuxedo?
I don't know, guy. Give me a 1960 Topps SGC.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely not going anywhere. They are definitely trying to establish themselves as number 2 with Beckett on the shelf. as far as volume is concerned, they're probably number 2 right now for submissions. But obviously, as you can see, baseball, basketball, if you are looking to flip baseball and basketball, I would go to HGA right now. Just for pure resale value, you seem to get better resale value with HGA. Prices to submit to SGC and HGA are the same. If you have baseball, I would go to SGC. They have a better history with it. There's more value there. Baseball collectors are more familiar with it. It seems to be the better play. Anything really high end, still going to PSA. I would not, regardless of however long it takes, if you have a card that's thousands of dollars, you would be an idiot to submit it to either of these other companies, just because your resale value is less than half from what we've seen.
Yeah, I said to you earlier, I got a pile. I'm holding back as hard as I can, not sending to HGA. That I want to wait for Beckett if they can get their crap open.
Well, you're going to be waiting.
Because I'm not sending. It's just me. I'm not sending baseball to SGC. I'm not sending ultra modern to SGC. I'm just not doing it.
Well, I think that Beckett has said that they're not going to be back open until January 2022.
That's fine. I'll wait.
Yeah.
The SGC slab is just awful. I just don't like it.
I mean, if it's PC, then, you wait as long as you need to. It doesn't matter, So, and then if it's stuff that you really need to sell, I mean, those other companies are open. HGA turnaround times are decent, same as SGC, and the prices are comparable. $25-$30 gets you your cards. So, I mean, this is the research that we have. The numbers speak for themselves. So baseball, go to SGC right now because it's open, if that's what you really need to do. Basketball and football, lower end, I'm going HGA. Anything higher end of any sport, of anything, I don't care if it's wrestling or Dragon Ball Z or anything that's worth thousands of bucks, go to PSA and spend it for the Express.
Yeah, 100%. If you're looking to make money, I 100% agree. You send it to PSA right now.
Yep.
Despite me not liking them. That is the correct move.
Yep. All right. So we'll move on. And for those of you who haven't figured it out by now, we're gonna run long. We still got a while to go here. We got a bunch of stuff to get through.
I gotta go to bed. Let's go.
All right, guy, we're rolling. We actually have some legit peanut gallery questions this week that came in from somebody who really emailed us versus us making up fake peanut gallery questions. So we're gonna have to answer them.
Wait, they were all Fugazi?
All right. So let's see. All right. Well, there's something I was gonna cover. We'll save it for next week. It's not hot enough that we need to talk about it. We'll jump in. We'll get to the questions, and then we'll close with Dr. Bunk as we usually as we have been. So here are the questions.
Many injuries.
Yeah, well, it's gonna get a lot of those coming up because football season is upon us. All right, so let's do the questions first. So we have 2 questions that have come in from real listeners, so we really appreciate you guys sending us questions. For those of you that want to get your questions on the podcast, send them to info@sportscardadvantage.com. We don't have a huge queue, so send them in and we'll get them on the show, provided that they're appropriate. First question. I recently purchased a set of 1976 Topps basketball cards, and they are pristine, so I'd like to get some graded. I'm looking at the PSA Pop Report, and there are a few no-name guys who don't show any 10s. I'm wondering if there's a lot of value for cards like this, relatively unknown players with only one PSA 10 card out there. What would happen to the value of the card if 1 or 2 showed up on the Pop Report in the future? So this is a very obscure question, but at the same time, I did find some research. I did look up 1976 Topps basketball and some of the values on 10s of well-known players that also have very, very low Pop Reports because it's 1976 basketball, but this can be applied to anything else. If it's an unknown player, more than likely, there's no PSA 10s for a reason because there's not a lot of people that are collecting it. Just about any year, people have been able to generate 10s, from especially 70s and up. There's plenty of 10s out there that people can get. So it's a card that people are interested in. they'll submit it, especially before all the PSA stuff went to being so expensive. So I looked up, there's a 1976 Julius Erving, there's a 1976 Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and those cards at PSA 10 are still only going for like $200. So for you to submit unknown guys, I think so one was going for like $250, the other one was like $330. So for you to submit unknown guys, pay $200 for the cards that cost 50 cents probably if you were going to buy them raw, it doesn't make any sense. It's not like now the PSA 10 is going to shoot up to thousands of dollars for some player that nobody's ever heard of. It's not a rookie. It's not a Hall of Famer. Those cards just don't have value. So in my opinion, I wouldn't submit anything to PSA in hopes of getting 10s unless they're rookies that are Hall of Famers and guys that have value. Otherwise, especially at a $200 price tag, I think it's not gonna be a winning proposition for you.
Yeah, I like that strategy. Take out the big names. Take out the big names or whoever won the title that year. Grab those guys. Definitely try to narrow down the collection and then submit and hope for 10s on those.
Yeah, but I mean, just do your research as far as what do the cards sell raw. I mean, how much is it worth? If it's a $3 card, it makes 0 sense whatsoever to submit it to PSA and spend $200. A $3 card at PSA 10 does not all of a sudden shoot up to a $3,000 card.
Yeah, in my head, I'm thinking we're submitting these cards for $8 each. I totally forgot. Yeah, he said PSA. Yeah, I'm not submitting any of these to PSA.
Yeah,
yeah, no.
So, I mean, if you really want to see how it's going to grade and you want to take a shot on it, spend $20 and submit it to HGA. And if you get a 9.5 or 10, then if the card has value, rookie or Hall of Famer or whatever it may be, then wait until PSA's prices come down and you can potentially crack it and resubmit it to PSA if you really want to. But, cards that are worthless raw are not worth that much more graded at a 10, even PSA.
Oh, well, I don't think that's entirely accurate. I mean, there's definitely from, a lot of people I don't know how many people are building or doing set registries of like the 1976 Topps basketball, but I've seen cards from the 80s PSA 10 go for well more than I thought they should. But people are trying to put together sets of 10 or team sets of 10 from different years. So I definitely think there's a market for them, 100%. But
Yeah,
I wouldn't say PSA 10's a nobody or worthless.
But are you going to make more than $200?
No, not again. I'm not submitting to PSA any of those cards to answer his question right now, currently.
Yeah. I mean, even if it gets so, I guess the answer to your question is if the value of the card isn't worth more than it costs you to submit, probably by at least 2 to 3 times, then don't submit it, because even if you think looking at it, it's a 10, no matter what, you never know. And if you spend the money and it comes back a 9, you just lost money. So unless two scenarios that somebody's looking for a few odds and ends cards of 1976 Topps basketball that they're looking for 10s and you can get them and sell them at a premium, fine, maybe you take that risk. Otherwise, it's not worth the time. Okay, next question. I got back into the hobby because I wanted to collect Kobe cards. He's my all-time favorite athlete, and obviously his cards skyrocketed after his death. Wondering if you see his cards continuing to rise. Is he at a floor, or will the sentiment start to fade and we see his card values drop? There's a new docuseries coming out on the Lakers. I think there's also another Kobe documentary coming out as well. Will this impact his prices? I actually love Kobe right now. I bought personally a raw 1996 Topps Kobe at the show. His raw cards right now I think it cost me $125. I think I can get at least a 9 on it. I will not submit it to PSA just because it's $200 to submit. I will probably send that card to HGA, get a nice purple and yellow slab for it, and see how we can see what we can do. But if you look at his prices right now, depending on what your budget is, if you look at purely, just the charts for Kobe. We'll look at a couple real quick. PSA 10s right now are going for 2,400, pop 3,300. All the charts look pretty similar for Kobe and vintage basketball in general. There was the huge spike back in the beginning part of this year, and then everything's come back down to sit at a floor to where we were through most of 2020, and at least the second half of 2020. And I think this is going to be the new floor for some of these cards. So I'm a buyer. Like, if you have the budget and you can spend the money on Kobe right now, look at whatever you can afford. I think a lot of these charts look really similar, and especially with the hype that's going to be coming out around the docuseries and everything else with Kobe. Depending on who you talk to, Kobe is number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or number 5 all time. He's a top 5 all-time player, no matter who you talk to. So I would be a buyer. Right now I'm looking at the PSA 9 Topps 1996. This thing peaked out at $1,800. You can get it for $400 right now.
All right, it sounds like he PCs Kobe, so now the excellent time to buy without worrying about holding the bag.
Yeah, if you're a huge Kobe fan and you're looking to get value, I think now is a perfect time. I don't think that we're going to see Kobe prices fall any further, simply because he has passed on. He is a Hall of Famer. He's a top 5 basketball player of all time, and his cards aren't that expensive. Like, his normal cards are not that expensive. Yes, some of his shit that is like the really higher end stuff can get really expensive. The short print, really small run, autographed, etc., really expensive. But even his Topps Chrome PSA 10 base is 11.5. Jordans are selling, the last Jordan, even when Jordans took a huge hit, they were still selling for $250,000 to $300,000. So in comparison, this card got all the way up to $50,000 back in earlier this year. God forbid you're holding that bag, but and
it's at 11.5 now.
It's at 11.5 right now.
Yeah, so and I agree with you. I don't see them going much lower on a guy like Kobe. So especially if you PC him, go grab as many Kobe's as you want.
Yeah, right now some of this stuff, like even the PSA 9, 2,900 capped out at 14 and change. Some of this stuff you're talking 6 or 7x, off the highs. I would feel very comfortable if I had the money investing in Kobe right now. And P.S. we have, other than my 1996 Topps Raw card, we have zero interest, zero stock in Kobe. So, just throwing that out there. I've seen some reviews on other podcasts and people complaining about, the hosts pumping their own stuff. We always.
I can assure you, I have zero Kobe's.
Yeah, we always disclose what we have, and we're not pumping our own stuff, and the stuff that we have is so small. It's such on the smaller end of things that it really doesn't freaking matter. All right, so that is it for our questions. Once again, if you have questions you want us to talk about, throw it into info@sportscardadvantage.com or find us on Instagram, Twitter, send us DMs. Happy to chat about any cards, within reason, or any questions within reason for that. We're going to close with Dr. Bunk. We have a couple of injuries that we want to talk about. For those of you that are new, Bunk is a licensed physical therapist. He's dealt with sports injuries his whole career. He knows a thing or two. So we value his opinion on what he says about injuries, how long things are going to take to get back, whether or not guys will have any potential residual concerns and may not play up to performance. So number one, we'll talk about Tatis. Tatis hurt his shoulder again, same shoulder that he hurt 3 or 4 other times this season. walk us through what the injury is. Is he going to have season-ending surgery? If he does have surgery, is that going to affect his long-term career? And where are we seeing Tatis prices right now?
Yeah, this is the third time he's subluxed or partially dislocated his shoulder. He 100 is not. Is he going to have surgery? He will have off-season surgery. I would absolutely be shocked if he does not have off-season surgery, because this thing's just going to keep popping out. The shoulder's unstable. It needs to be surgically repaired to stabilize it. Fortunately for him, it's his left arm, so that makes it a little bit more manageable returning to the top of his game, because he doesn't have to use it to throw, and I don't see it being any concern to hit in the future. But and we got to see how his rehab goes here. I mean, it could pop out at any time. So yeah, they can get a little strength and calm it down right now, and try to stabilize it a little bit naturally. But he's at risk all year long for that coming out and missing games. And God, that would suck heading into the playoffs if he did it again.
Well, I mean, they're in a hunt right now, though. I mean, they got to make the playoffs first in order for him to pull it out in the playoffs.
Right. Well, I mean, if he has surgery now, he's done for the year.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get him healthy. You can rehab, the condition of his shoulder to calm it down, keep his strength, keep his motion, and do the best you can to minimize it coming out. But he's at a increased risk every time he steps on the field to sublux his arm.
So when you say calm it down, how long do you think, what's the usual waiting period for him to be on the sideline to calm it down and get it back, get him basically back ready to play? Because I got to imagine Padres want him on the field to try and make a run to make the playoffs.
Yeah. So I mean, if you picture the shoulder, it's a ball and socket joint, right? So when you're naturally unstable, that ball should be nice and tight in the socket and moving around. In his case, a lot of his movements, his big swings and misses, that ball is moving around a little bit more than it should all the time. Now, it doesn't always hurt him and it doesn't always come out, but it irritates all the tissue around it because it's not doing mechanically what it should. So when you have these events, when it pops out a little bit and slides back in, it can be painful and irritate the tissue some more because the body's trying to protect itself. So I don't think it should take them very long. I'd imagine in 7 to 10 days, it's going to calm itself down. It's just a matter of, when they're evaluating him in his strength and his ability to, resist his trainers and his doctors, if they think he's back to an acceptable risk of it coming out again.
So that leaves the next question. More than likely, he'll be hit or miss off and on this season. His cards so far have not started to dip, similar to Acuna when they announced he's out for the season. So my question is, if 100% off-season surgery, if he makes it that far, or is there any risk for long-term injury performance, or is there any risk of him missing the beginning of next season?
No, I don't think so. I think as a non-throw, if it was his throwing shoulder, there'd be some questions. But I think a non-throwing shoulder, he would be fine. I don't think there's any, again, non-throwing shoulder, I don't think there's any huge concern moving forward for his career there.
So for those of you, so if he plays off and on the rest of this season, as he goes into off season, I would have to imagine if they announce that he's having surgery, people are going to get a little scared. So look for buying opportunities in the off season. If that's when he has surgery, more than likely, not only mix with the off season plus the surgery, people will dump some of his cards. So you should be able to pick up some price, some decent price on that stuff. We'll keep that in mind, obviously as we move into the, winter months, when we're doing the podcast, and we'll try to put some buying opportunities on the table when the time comes.
And just a note on being injury prone. I mean, this is the same condition, same injury, just happening over and over and over. It's not like he's getting hurt 3 different times. He's at risk like I said, he's at risk at this every time he plays. So I don't look at this as until you fix the problem, it's not a new injury.
And once it gets fixed, it's not something that's likely to come back, correct?
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know re-injury rates of surgically stabilized shoulders in professional baseball players, but
once again, guy, you don't come prepared. I come every week with my numbers. I got everything.
I came at you with 2 studies the last 2 weeks.
Exactly. The fans are ready for you to come back with percentages and studies and numbers of what the possibilities are here. So
If it was his throwing shoulder, there's concern.
okay.
There's big concern. It's usually, I mean, that kind of injury is a big deal for pitchers. Not the majority of pitchers don't make it back after that kind of surgery.
Well,
So,
for people in the hobby, people don't necessarily give a shit whether or not he could make the throw from shortstop. It's more whether or not he's putting the ball in the stands. You know.
well, you got to play the field guy
Yeah,
in the
you
National
got to
League. Well,
play the
actually,
field.
universal DH is coming, so I guess he could be a DH. But he's fine. He's so young. He's gonna do great with. Again, I'm talking like it's a done deal. He's getting surgery, but my professional opinion is he's probably gonna get it.
Okay. Well, with that being said, long story short, look for opportunities with Tatis in the offseason. More than likely, unless they absolutely have to shut him down with the Padres being in a playoff race, they're going to try to keep him on the field. Let's switch gears to football. The big injury news for football: quarterback Carson Wentz, obviously new in a Colts uniform. Funny, quick side story from the show. The actual injury happened during the show. I was literally sitting at a table when a guy was bitching about how he just got taken because he sold a Jacob Eason auto for really, really cheap before an injury announcement got made. But anyway, give us the rundown on his foot, when you anticipate he'll actually be back, and whether or not it'll have any impact on his play.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So the biggest thing I see everyone talking about is like, what's the deal with the 5 to 12 week recovery time on this? And I'll explain that. So apparently he must have had an old fracture from either high school or college, or I guess it could be the beginning of his NFL career in his foot. It sounds like it healed not well. And then what happened was there's a weak area where it healed, and a piece of the bone in the outside of his foot broke off. So he's got this floating piece of bone in there causing the pain. From my understanding, they're going to go in and remove the bone. And the reason for the 5 to 12 week window is because they're not doing anything structurally. This is more of a pain tolerance issue. So obviously, once he's got to have the incision heal up, and the got to give it a little bit of time for where the bone broke off to calm down. But the 5 to 12 week ranges, if he's tolerating pain and putting full weight on his leg and has the strength, they're going to allow him to play. He's going to be allowed to play earlier in that recovery window. But again, it's the foot. All of our weight goes through there, so sometimes it takes a little longer. Obviously he's been hurt a lot, so
yeah,
I don't know what pain tolerance is.
5 weeks from the injury literally puts him back on the field before, puts him on the field, or 5 weeks in the surgery puts him on the field week 1 or week 2, probably.
And the other interesting thing is, say they have to put him on the PUP or something, and I think he come off week 6 with that, week 7 with that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a clause in that trade where the Eagles don't get, or the Eagles don't get the first round pick if he doesn't play X% of the snaps of the year. So that'd be interesting to see if
the Colts get a little fugazi with the injury status.
Well, I mean, I think if he's ready to play, they're going to play him if he's feeling good. But I mean, it's just interesting that he got the 12-week window. 12 weeks puts you at week 7-ish, right?
Yeah, roughly.
Puts you when he'd have to come off the physically unable to perform list, and then that wouldn't cost him a first round pick, most likely.
Yeah. So we'll look at a couple Carson Wentz cards, then we'll look at some Eason stuff. Right now, Wentz prices have gone down pretty dramatically over the last week. $470 on July 22nd to $380. So almost a 25% drop. We're looking at his 2016 Prism PSA 10s. I would say you probably wait another week or two when they announce that he's actually undergone the surgery itself. You probably get this thing to drop back down to where it was, back in June in the 300 level, low 300s, and it's a boomer bust at that point. If you could pick this card up for low 300s or a little bit less, and he comes back and is playing, plays and does well, you could definitely see this thing double. If he comes back and he sucks, you're going to see this thing go back to $200 like it was at the end of last year. So it's definitely going to be a boom or bust for him, but he should be back on the field, ready to play sometime in the first half of the season, based on what Bunk is saying.
At worst, I mean, again, he gets the surgery this week. If he hasn't already had it, he could literally just need the 5, 6, 7 weeks, and he's ready to go. That puts him second, third week of the season.
Yeah. So definitely some opportunities there. There are people probably who are buying in the hopes of him, playing well, and now the injury and panic selling. These cards real low pop on them. You can get them for a decent value, and a lot of people are hopeful that Wentz is gonna be get a second chance in Indy, and come in with a young team, good offensive line, with the exception of Quentin Nelson, who has the same freaking injury, which is
same injury, same time frame,
so weird. But Indy has a good offensive line, they have a good running back, decent young wide receiver core, so Wentz could get a second chance if he can get healthy. So definitely interesting boom or bust opportunity there. But if you can get it for $250 to $300 in the next few weeks, take a shot on it, or look at something cheaper. PSA 9 sitting in the same spot. You get the PSA 9 for probably $100.
Yeah, you're basically playing chicken with watching the prices drop and the first video that releases showing him running and getting back. So
yeah, I mean the first video of him throwing a ball in practice to Pittman is when people start buying again.
Yeah, but I mean, again, the guy's been hurt all the time, and should the injury in itself be a concern for him not making it through the season? No, not necessarily. Yeah. But I'm not buying Wentz.
Yeah, I mean, not somebody on the top of my list, but a lot of these guys, Dak. I mean, I'm the same way with Dak. Dak scares the shit out of me as far as buying Dak right now, because he has some sort of other muscular injury, and Jones says he's okay, but he's not on the field. So who knows? Like, there's a couple guys, Wentz, Dak, and Deshaun, for other reasons that I'm scared to death of right now. Even though I bought a Deshaun card at the show, it was $100, and that is literally a lottery ticket, because he could get traded to Denver and have huge weapons, or right now he's getting completely frozen out of Houston.
Football's so tough. I mean, literally with football, if you want to make money, you need to. As soon as new product comes out, you got to either break it, rip it, and flip it right away. Otherwise, for football, I'm looking at guys that are established. If I'm buying into football, I'm looking at established guys. I don't have the attention span to keep up and flip ultra modern football.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of little fun things out there. Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson on the younger side. I love those guys. I think both of them have some potential. They both had great rookie campaigns, and they can continue to get better. So that's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I agree. It's tough with football.
You said that about Cam Akers too.
I did, and Cam Akers, until he blew his freaking Achilles.
That's what I mean. Football is so. I mean, it's just so many injuries. It's tough. It's tough to collect these guys.
Well, it's a long man's game as far as some of this stuff and holding things and having the capital to be able to sit on something and not necessarily take a 50% loss, or you take the loss and continue to flip. So it just depends on what you want to do. All right, Guy, you got anything else for the fine folks out there?
No, Guy, they listened long enough.
Yeah, this episode was a little bit longer. So yeah, we'll close out just as on a positive note. The audience is continuing to grow, so we appreciate everybody continuing to listen. Please help pass it along. Tell your friends. Submit questions, info@sportscardadvantage.com. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. Participate. We got some good things coming up here over the next couple months. We're just a couple guys, longtime friends, talking some shit about sports cards. We don't have any popular influencers or budgets or interns or anything else. It's just us doing our thing. So thank you everybody for continuing to listen and spread the word.